Today I want to introduce to you a very special friend of mine who's really talented, and I'm glad that you guys get to meet not only just hear from me, but many of my talented friends who are experts on their special subjects. Dr. Raymond Chong was born and grew up in Los Angeles, and he actually is very interesting. His family, his fifth generation Chinese American, as I remember sixth generation. So his his early heritage, his ancestors were actually one of the first like Chinese Americans coming to the United States. So he had very interesting story to share in terms of, and you all know I study Chinese immigrants. So he and I talk a lot about the subject. But he has a lot of interesting life trajectories. He grew up like near the Los Angeles River, graduated in with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and like I know some of you are engineers here, from the University of Southern California, and a master's degree in civil engineering from San Jose State University. He's a distinguished professor at Shandong Jiaotong University at Jinan in China. As a professional engineer and transportation professional, he has served governments and consultancies. And he's sixth generation Chinese American, as I mentioned. His family roots in America dated back to the California Gold Rush in 1849 to 1855, First Transcontinental Railroad, Boston Chinatown Imperial Jet Restaurants at Central Square in Cambridge, Kuberkan Theater Restaurant at San Francisco Chinatown, Far East Cafe at Little Tokyo in Los Angeles. As president of Generations LLC in the creative realm, he is also a creative writer. He tells stories, pen poems, composes lyrics, makes films, and drafts articles. He actually had like just a poetry collection as well, like really talented. His recent works include Peony like Amour, and chop suey and sushi from sea to shining sea, Chinese and Japanese restaurants in the United States, Kanto Kyuti, Village of Dragon Hill, a mystical like journey in passion, and My Odyssey Between Two Worlds. He has written journal articles on the Chinese American experiences for the Chinese Historical Society of America and the Chinese Historical Society of Southern California. He also is a staff writer for the SM News and Asian American News Company. So he is really a person with all hats. Like I know a lot of you are engineering and architects. But still taking humanities class, and he is one example, standing example of like doing good in both STEM and humanities. So let's welcome Dr. Chong for his presentation on Shanghai and maybe sharing some of his poetry today.
Well, Yunzi, thanks for the introduction. I must admit, I am bipolar. One hand, I'm an engineer. The other hand, I'm a creative soul like you are. But today is a different aspect of Shanghai, and I thank Ethan to kind of talk about the future, the present. Well, I'm going in reverse to the past, the old Shanghai of 100 years ago. And Ethan, that was a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot about that Shanghai Tower just by your presentation. But I want to share with you my past looking back to old Shanghai.
And at the end of the presentation, maybe we could have a little honor of touring your museum in your in your house, if you don't mind. Yeah, collection of your.
Okay, I'll try, depending how my laptop handles the visual. But
Yeah.
let me share my screen with you all. And do you see my screen? Oh, Shanghai.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to minimize the visual. I'll move into the slideshow from the beginning. And this is old Shanghai. As Ethan mentioned, Paris of the East. And there's a good reason to call it Paris of the East. And I'll go through the history, the geography, the legacy, all that's good stuff. But if you're wondering where Shanghai is, it's a rural city, a megapolis along the Yangtze River estuary. As Ethan mentioned, a city, a rural city of 30 million souls. It's so huge. It became part of Chinese history as a treaty port back during the 19th century when the imperial powers were hungry for silver, gold, anything of value from China. That was the genesis of this Shanghai as a seaport for China. And for this particular lesson, I'll be chatting with you about the golden age of Shanghai. But going back to the history of Shanghai, because of the imperial powers, they carved parts of Shanghai to be concessions, whether it's an American concession, British, French. It had a major influence of what Shanghai became an international city with huge Western influence. And here's the timeline that I'm focusing one decade from 1927 to 1937. And in my mind, that is the true golden age, a decade of Shanghai. And the key event was when the Kuomintang, the nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek, took control of Shanghai. They organized it to a different type of city. And that created a little focus, a little concentration. It created an opportunity to build the Susan House, the Peace Hotel. Later in 1933, the famous Park Hotel. And sadly, in 1937, it ended with the beginning of the Sino-Japanese War. So that's give you a little timeline, a snapshot in terms of the history of that golden age, the golden decade of Shanghai. And getting a picture, this is what old Shanghai looked in 1937. What you see are the concessions. You see the going from left to right, a horizontal called the international settlement. That was a merger of the British and the American concession to a unified international settlement. At the same time, the French continued their concession, and the outlying areas were under control of the Chinese government, the national government, the Kuomintang, the Republic of China. So these are context, the geography, and you see along the light blue is the Hong Kong River, which is a sub-river of the Yangtze River. And this is a glimpse of the Bund, 1928. I can see the classic architecture, European influence, the Art Deco, fabulous. This is the very heart of 1928. And you see that to the right is a memorial to World War I at that time. And along that strip boulevard were banks, trading houses, consulates. It had a combination of Western and classical and modern styles with a mix of Art Deco. Art Deco is the most prominent features architecturally along the Bund. And I'm going to show you some examples of that architecture. The Hong Kong Shanghai banking building. And so you can see the classic dome. And that was a luxury building, a kind of a miniature skyscraper. But you can see, just by looking at it, how it conveys the Western influence, the power of the imperial governments, whether it's French, British, American, that was influence of that architecture design. And here, you got the Shanghai Club. It was an exclusive club for the British expatriates who want to see a little bit of the old country. They share their luxury time, leisure time in luxury at the Shanghai Club. Another example of architecture is the Customs House. And again, you see the influence. In this case, again, the British influence in particular. You see that clock and bell? That mirrors Big Ben in London. So you can see the pervasive influence by the Western powers at that time from 1977 to 1937. But in my mind, the most famous one is the Peace Hotel. And it was designed by a couple of famous architects, Parker and Turner. It was built for Sir Victor Sisson. And that was, I would say, one of the early skyscrapers in Shanghai. And it was the epitome of Art Deco style. Inside, outside, marble floors, luxury hotel rooms, and of course, the green copper roof. It's a signature feature you cannot miss, especially at night when you're in Shanghai along the Bund. And this is a classic epitome for Art Deco architecture. Another great landmark in old Shanghai was the Nanjing Road, which I would equivalent to that to Houston's Galleria. Of course, Galleria, it has a smaller footprint, but this was a massive shopping district, 5.5 kilometers long, a classic shopping district. Every day you can think of it. It's equivalent to Champs-Élysées, Fifth Avenue, Oxford Street. You had a slew of department stores, cafes, dancing halls, theaters. You want to have a good time in Shanghai, whether you're Chinese or foreigner, this is a must-go place to be in Shanghai during that golden age. Culturally, that situation created the allure of modernism. You ask, what is modernism? Because Shanghai was the gateway for the Westerners to influence their thinking into China. It created a great creative legacy of what is urban culture. Shanghai was a laissez-faire melting pot between modernism of the Western powers with Chinese traditions. So Shanghai was the vanguard for the new China. It was the push for nationalism. So what I would describe now are the different features of the culture, the impact, whether it's literature, film, magazine. So I will reflect that modernism for you all here. What I'll be introducing you to now are writers, famous writers. Mun Xinjing. He was a modernist, one of a composer of short stories. He wrote novels, screenplays, and essays. He was part of a subfield called New Socialism. And what that means is a reflection of feelings, thoughts, ideas, different from Chinese which tend to be very stoic, to more Western thought in that way of passion. And his most famous work is the Shanghai Foxtrot. At that time, he was captivated by the allure of Shanghai, in particular, dance halls and the life at night. So his most famous short story was Shanghai Foxtrot. And that created some films associated with that, the glory days of the Shanghai nightclub. Unfortunately, in 1940, at a relatively young age, he got assassinated in Shanghai. And next important writer is Lung Luzhu, who was totally enchanted again by the allure of Shanghai. Who would not be? He was a writer of novels, essays, and maker of films. He was a modernist. Unfortunately, he got assassinated too in 1940. So being a writer was a chancy risk during that time in Shanghai. But he was renowned in particular for this particular book, The Urban Scenes, a collection of short stories from tradition to modernism. His focus was not on men characters. He focused on the female characters of that time. He described in a narrative the sensuality, the sexuality, the independence of the Chinese ladies at that time. It was a breakout time for Chinese ladies from their stereotypical traditional roles. So he kind of introduced that vantage of the Shanghai era, in particular of the ladies at that time. Another famous writer is Shen Junchen. He was a poet, an essayist, short story writer. He was part of the new sensationalist movement, focused on urban culture, intellectual, well thought out writer. He wrote One Rainy Evening. And again, the theme, the focus, the place is Shanghai. And it was like a love story, a protagonist of feelings, desires, passions, and the mysterious pursuit of one gentleman for a lady in the rain in Shanghai. So that is the name, One Rainy Evening, reflecting of life of that golden age in Shanghai. And this is a little snapshot of Shen Chunchen, what he thought of life. This is his thinking, his realm of Shanghai. Let me recite this. This so-called modern life comes with a variety of unique features, harbors heaving with enormous ships, bustling to and fro, factories reverberating with capitalist sounds, mines burrowing deep underground, ballrooms bouncing to the sound of jazz, department stores climbing up and down into skyscrapers, wars fought in the air by planes, racetracks taking up acres of space. Even the countryside is different now to what previous generation must have enjoyed. Can the emotions simulated by this life in the hearts of our poets be the same as those stirred by the lives of their predecessors? So definitely Shen Junchen was deeply captivated by Shanghai, a new era of modernism. But beyond literature was the golden age of cinema. And Shanghai, just like Hollywood, this was the center of the cinema industry, beginning with silent films to sound films. This was the epic center of cinema, Shanghai. And same time, it was the golden age of cinema in Shanghai. One famous actress is Run Linju. She was an iconic actor of cinema, very explicit, implicit, very impassioned actress. She had exceptional acting. She was well renowned for this particular film called Shanu, the Goddess. The context, the plot in the short story, she played a low caste lady with a young son, becomes a streetwalker, prostitute, as a means to survive, to give hope to her son. So that was one of her key roles. And most of the films at that time focus on life on the streets in Shanghai. Unfortunately for her, she committed suicide around 1935. Another famous actor is Hundi. She was proclaimed as the first true movie queen in China. She was quite famous, lovely. Her most famous film she had was Twin Sisters, where she played a dual role of one sister to another. She had a dual role in acting, Twin Sisters in 1934. Another famous actor, an iconic one, is Zhao Jun, who happens to be a singer too. She sang tunes to the Shanghai Way style. And again, her most famous film was known as Street Angels, that dealt with the slums of Shanghai, how to survive in spite of the riches of the few, to live the basics in Shanghai, in the streets of Shanghai. So I moved into another realm, music, singing. And this is also the time of the 7 great singing stars. And this is a certain style, a certain rhythm. What you see here are several of them right now. It was the popular music at that time. It was the Shanghai genre. Just like that right now, you got hip hop, rap. Well, in Shanghai during the 1927 to 1937, they had the Shanghainese. That's Shanghai popular music. Of course, you got to have magazines. And this is one of the most popular magazines called The Young Companion. It focused a lot about the modern ladies. It was basically a pictorial combining English and Chinese text. It had photographs, art, literature, sports. It glamorized that imperial Shanghai. It showcased it. It may be exaggerated, but it had a purpose to promote the allure of Shanghai. And this is the magazine, The Young Companion. And in the midst of this time, this golden age of Shanghai, was advertisement, whether in newspaper or in magazine or in posters. And in that focus of advertisement, it was always the young ladies, the modern ladies of Shanghai. You can see the promotion of cigarettes on the left, the promotion of liquor to the right. All across the restaurants, cafes, shops, we have posters all along the wall. And same here in America, at the chop suey house, the sakuyui house, in the restaurants in America, you would have posters of beautiful Shanghai ladies promoting their product. So you can see there are. This is the illusion of the beauty of the modern ladies of Shanghai. Another aspect we don't want to overlook is the Shanghai fashion, the hop chupu. And you can see a picture to the left, a studio shot of a couple of ladies in the chipu. And this was a very influenced by Western style. It was not a Chinese purity dress. It had a little mixture, very narrow, very thin, and it fitted with the Western fashion accessories like mink coats, jewelry, whatever. So it was a mixture of the East and the West in the fashion. So I call it Hong Kong Changpo. Of course, living in this fabulous world of Shanghai, you have the Hong Kong cuisine. And it was very influenced by Western tastes. It had a little mixture of soy sauce, original flavors, but it blended the Western cuisine that created these dishes, popular Hong Kong dishes. Shanghai style borscht from the Russians, Shanghai style fried pork chops, even potato salad. Those were the dishes that were popular at that time. So that gives you a view of the old Shanghai. I'm going to move forward to the present now and reflect on little things of what I know of New Shanghai. Right now, in December 2023, Blossom Shanghai television series by the famous director, producer Wong Kong-wei, Blossom Shanghai. It introduced to the Chinese the era, the glorious era, not of the golden age as I was referring to, but the 1930s of the change in the economy, the new economy. And that was in Shanghai. It was part of the economic reform, focusing on Hong Kong Road. And this created the nostalgia of the 1990s of Shanghai, of how this gentleman, a millionaire, becomes fabulously rich in Shanghai because of the economic reform. And it kept the nostalgia of the 1990s, but it also creates the nostalgia for that golden age, 1927 to 1937. And here is a snapshot of the old jazz band at the Peace Hotel. And these gentlemen you see right now, that band, though they're in their, this is a 1920, I mean, this is a current picture, 2024, of these guys in the 80s and 90s playing the old tunes of that golden age of Shanghai, playing at the Peace Hotel. And I've seen them perform myself. I was lucky to do that some time ago during the past. But looking now, this is Nanjing Road. Now, this is the snapshot, Christmas, December 2023, Shanghai. Look how crowded Nanjing Road is. Over in a given day, 1 million people go through that magical shopping district. It's fabulous. The restaurants, the cafes, the entertainment, the theaters. It has a fabulous vibe. You can see the colorful neon signs. You feel the excitement. You feel that buzz in Shanghai. And this is Christmas Day 2023 at the Bund. And you can see the classic Big Ben building. And you see the Peace Hotel. And you can see the mega crowds out there. And this is on Christmas Day in Shanghai. You see that, look at that picture. It's the lighting, the crowds, the art decor. It just gives you, it just simply captivated just by those scenes right there at the Bund on Christmas Day. But of course, you got on that magical day across the Hong Kong River, you got the Oriental Pearl Tower at the Pudong District. and that is that the moon on that over Oriental Pearl Tower on Christmas Day. But in order to get your sensory energy, you got to have food. And my gosh, I'm kind of biased for Cantonese dishes, but if you have true Shanghai Hong Kong cuisine like this, to the left is their version of dim sum. A little different, unique, but similar. Wow, so lavish. I ate there twice. It was so good for lunch, dim sum. And to my right, you can see these itty bitty tiny shrimp in the foreground. In the middle, a very weird technique of kind of creating art within the guts, the inners of the fish, and then some nice vegetables, local vegetables from Shanghai. So this is Hong Kong cuisine. It's fabulous. Dr. Zhu was referring to my museum. This is part of my museum. I have an exhibit solely dedicated to Shanghai. I show my pictures, postcards. I show the little artifacts, trinkets I gathered, especially Shanghai fans. I got some stuff of perfume for ladies, and I have postcards of Shanghai. And in particular, you're looking at that. Just looking at the promotion of Shanghai, the modern lady, you got perfume, you got creams, you got scents, you get everything. This is the allure, even now, of Shanghai, 100 years later, it's the present. So in a way, I am truly captivated in Shanghai because I was there on Christmas Day 2023. And for that moment, I have a poem I wrote. In magical Shanghai, in 5 stanzas. In magical Shanghai, on an enchanted Christmas, amidst a Christmas crystal sky, at the alluring cosmos in Shanghai, Paris of the East. The holiday mood wildly fascinates us by its glowing neon lights and dazzling decors among the teeming crowd when our hearts infatuate in an impassioned rhapsody of sheer intrigue along the magnificent Nanjing Road, amidst the famous boutiques and famous eateries. At the iconic Peace Hotel, with its art decor facade and copper slit roof, we dearly gaze at its Italian marble floors and Lilliput glass artwork, when we deliciously dine at its French Victor's Cafe, when Santa Claus gleefully entertains. Along the winding Hong Kong River, on its stony promenade, we ardently mesmerize the neoclassical buildings of ancient Bonn as this spectacular aura deeply envelops our souls. Across the Hong Kong River, as ships and boats lazily float, aside from the pulsating lights of the steely spirals along the modern Pudong skyline, upon a soaring moon, above the splendid Oriental Pearl Tower, I know your true amour in magical Shanghai. That is my tribute to Magical Shanghai, December 25th, 2023.